What's up? What's up? What's up, community? Welcome to a new venture we trying to do, a new show. It's called Truth to the People, and we're gonna do this live. We're gonna put it out on YouTube. We're still trying to get our connection to Twitter. If you my Facebook friend, you can go right to Facebook and start checking out the conversation. And we're gonna have live guests on here. We'll have live guests on the show talking about the issues that's happening today. So it's a new venture we trying to do. I want to thank my brother Don Allen for helping Anthony McMorris Rice try to help produce this new thing we trying to do, so we can get information out to the people. And this is about getting it out to all people that's fighting through this system of government uh, uh, and fighting to try to change the world. And it's a lot of things that we're doing. And I'm taping live from Minneapolis, Minnesota, most known for lately as the place where George Floyd was killed. And today Dante Wright was shot by Officer Potters in Brooklyn Center. They came down with the verdict today. Gave her and only gave her 24 months. A lot of people are upset by that, but as I continue to say, I was always wondering what they, who destroys their life like that. But Officer Partnership have gotten the same time that Officer Noah did, and they reduced this in about 3 years. They gave him 12 years. So it's about the justice system and racism and things we're talking about here in Minnesota that affects us all over the country, all over the world, especially for ADOS African American people, as we continue to try to find our way, even here over 400 years later from slavery. We're still trying to find our way, and so those are some of the things we'll be talking about. Education on this show. Right now we have a situation where our teachers are going to go on strike in Minneapolis and St. Paul. What's the conversation on that? I'm one that our kids been out of school a long time. They've been out of school a long time, and through the COVID pandemic, and they are going to suffer a little more. They're going to suffer a little more with this strike if it happens. And they voted like almost 100% to go on strike. And we'll talk about the issues, what they're talking about, what they're talking about. We will be talking about that on this show and many other subjects we'll have on this show. So this is going to be a great show. This is going to be a great show to do. I'm real interested in bringing young people to the forefront to see how they fight the next 20, 25 years to make sure their kids are safe. And so I love to say working with them young people 30 and under to help with the kids 10 25. Excuse me, working 10 to 25. So this it's so many subjects that we got to touch, and we got to unite. The country is at the brink of civil war. When you look at what some on the right is doing, and I watched what's happening on the left. What they are doing is two big fights. One wants the right wants to not let you be able to the vote, do crazy things like that, or play like Trump then almost caused a coup. He tried to do a coup attempt in the last election, and it's still impacting people today. You know what they did then, and in the country, what's happening in the country. So we'll talk about subjects like that. we'll bring guests on like that. We got we got guests coming on tonight. I'll be talking to young guys that's working on doing police reform. I got them in the back room, and we have some camera things that we'll be working on. This we are experimenting now, but I also have the people like Mark Anderson join us tonight in the 7 o'clock hour about trauma and what that means, and particularly in our community. There's nothing but trauma going on in the Black community now, especially here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We've seen in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, a young man killed by police. Amir Locke was killed here, and he was buried yesterday. And then next week, Deshaun Hill, a North High graduate was killed last weekend, last Friday, about in the afternoon. I think it was last Thursday or Friday. I think it was, but he was killed in the afternoon after the kids that went down to protest about Amir Locke being shot by the police, and Amir, who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and had to sleep with a gun. He had a gun, sleeping with it. He still shouldn't have been dead, but he was sleeping with a gun, and right there by him. I know you have a gun in the drawer under the mattress, somewhere where you can make sure you protect yourself. But when you see it, when you see it on a person that's sleeping right there with the gun, that's kind of sad to hear. And then in that incident, it was all about them searching, doing a no-knock warrant, looking for a murder suspect that killed a brother in St. Paul. And so two of his cousins actually was arrested for that murder in St. Paul, and that's who they were looking for. And they was looking in three different houses just to tell the whole facts, nothing but the truth. And that's what I try to do. I try to talk about what government doing, because it's hard for government to really help African Americans. I don't know why they didn't change our name so much, but it's hard for them to really understand that we can take care of ourselves if you do us right. And what's doing us right is making sure the tax dollars that be put in from our community, which is billions, that some of it come back to our community, and not come back to the not come back to the situation where not come back to the not give it to other people to take care of. That's, if you hear that ringing, that's that was AJ trying to must be trying to get in or something. But you'll hear the phone ringing. We're gonna get all these kinks right, but this is what I do. This trying to get information to our community here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're watching on YouTube or things like that, it'll be on YouTube, Twitter. You'll see I do radio on Sunday, every Sunday on 89.9 KMOJ with Lisa Clemens of A Mother's Love Initiative. And we talk about community value conversation. And we want that is continue to say, how do we get out from the killing our people? Because most of the time you don't want to talk about it because it's close in it's in the family, and we all have family issues in all communities, and we have to figure it out. If we don't figure out why so many of us are dying all over the country, whether you're in Chicago, whether you're in Philadelphia, whether you're in Baltimore or Ohio, wherever you at, if we don't figure it out, they don't have, nobody has a right to try to figure out our situation. And so, and then by us not talking about it, then you can continue to do what they can go right by it. They can go right by it. They don't have to talk about it. If you don't talk about it, then they don't have to talk about it. So I've been working with young men, young women, whoever that want to push the agenda, and that's what I that's what I do, and so that's what we'll be talking about. We'll talk about with young. Well, we got a UCMT. While we're talking about public safety and saving our kids from killing each other, like or saving people from killing each other. Period. In our community, like Deshaun Hill was killed, coming from school, high school quarterback, killed in the neighborhood. And then when you talk about Amir Locke, how do we deal with those things together and deal with it all over the country? That's what we're going to try to do here. We're going to try to and we're going to do it on Tuesday. This is a Friday night, nothing to do but get the test pilot show. So it'll be on Tuesday, but we'll replay it on Friday. We'll replay it. So you'll get to, if you miss it Tuesday, you'll see it on Friday. And then and sometimes if I have to miss Tuesday, you'll be watching the same show, and then I'll take something new on Friday. But I try to keep up with I'm doing with what I'm doing. So I got so today I'm gonna talk to young brothers that's out there, and they and ask them what they're thinking about different things that's going on. And I think I got a young Miles Wilson, a young brother, and that's why I said these young people under 30 years old, these, especially with the UCMT, they're 25 to 30, and got young people, and hope you enjoy what we're trying to do. And the big thing is about messaging and getting it out. Getting the thing out and making it happen. So that's what we're gonna do. And I think we got brother Miles online, and let's see if it's working right and we can hear him. Brother Miles, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Hey, brother. First, welcome to our first live podcast, or not podcast, but first live feeding on Facebook and YouTube of Truth to the People. And that's what we gonna try to keep talking about. And Mal, let's start this conversation and talk about what's happening today. And let's talk about what's happening today, Kim Potter, the Brooklyn Park police officer that shot Dante Wright, ended up getting 24 months. Talk about what you are hearing and what's the feeling out there, and what's your feeling about this situation. Remembering that Noah, who killed Justine Diamond, a white woman over South, ended up getting 12 years. The Supreme Court reduced it about 3 years. But what's your take on what's happening and with the Potter case, and then what's your opinion?
Well, so my initial take on it, um, again, it's been with all that's going on right now. I think that we're to a breaking point. There's a bit of frustration that I have within myself, or for what's going on, and by that, what I'm getting at is with the situation that happened about 2 weeks ago with Amir Locke. Now we've come to a trial where an officer who claims that it was a mistake to pull her pistol instead of her taser gets sentenced to 24 months, which 16 I think she has to do in prison, and the rest she could serve at home. And I think that's just a little bit ridiculous, to be quite honest and quite fair. I feel that right now, with all that's going on, that accountability has to be the number one thing that we're holding not just ourselves to, not just law enforcement to, but as a standard. And I think that kind of discredits the work that there are some officers out there doing. But in terms of the accountability, and to know that somebody can commit murder and walk away with 24 months of for a sentence, it just seems a bit ridiculous to me. It's frustrating.
And Miles, and that's what a lot of people are. are saying that kind of the frustration of particularly the Nora case that happened just not so long ago. It's a lot of stuff been happening, but a lot of people are echoing that, and and uh, and and when you see it, when you talk about it feels like they're treating people differently, and what the justice system. What do we have to do? What do you think have to be done to get this thing on another level? I mean, get people. How come you feel like it's so hard for people to be treated fairly?
Well, first, I think that for things to get done at that at a higher level is that it takes that understanding of how things are implemented into a system, how things operate into a system, and to kind of get into that system themselves. We need to see a lot more uh, judges, defense attorneys, legislators, city council, people that look like us, in terms of African American. And I think that's the first step into what we can do to at least start to change a system. I know it's a system that was never made to protect and serve us or to adhere to us as people, but to kind of overrule that and kind of overturn that corrupt system, we need to get into position and um, and take over from the inside, And so that's why I think could be done to change. I think that what we do as a Young People's Task Force may inspire some people to want to be into these elected positions, such as mayor or city council or a state rep. We bring on a lot of people that, like State Rep John Thompson, that speaks to our young people and gives them that hope and that inspiration that they can fill that seat one day, and in other seats alike. So I think that's the key to changing the system. Um, and yeah, so that's where my mindset is at, and that's what I want to kind of provide to the young people of Minneapolis and throughout that may hear this message. That in terms of change, we have to make that change ourselves. We have to be the change.
And Miles, you're like the one of the co-chairs of the Young People Task Force in Minneapolis that deals with police reform. You've been a part of the UCMT for the past 2 years, and the UCMT is the Unity Community Mediation Team that's working with trying to bridge the gap with law enforcement. Because some say we don't need it, and you can chime in and say some people say we don't need law enforcement in our community. And like I said, the protests they were downtown protesting the death of Mir Locke, the North High students, and by the time they got home, Deshaun Hill was killed. How do you balance that, Miles? At one point, because we hate our brothers and sisters or anybody getting killed, period. But when they get killed by law enforcement, the attention is drawn there, but we can't get the attention the other way, even though they say this is up to a higher standard. Uh, why can't be a higher standard on both sides of these issues?
That's a great question. I do believe that the higher standard needs to be held on both ends of that field. I do again stand on the accountability that needs to be held from both our community standpoint and from our law enforcement standpoint. I do believe that we do need law for some a level of law enforcement. I do think that we, as a Young People's Task Force, a part of the Unity Community Mediation Team, with the Memorandum of Agreement and the PCRC that is being started, can help transform, as my project coordinator AJ likes to say, transform the police department. So I do think that we can make great measures and great change there. But in terms of the community, we do need to hold ourselves to that higher standard as well. Like you said, when there's an officer-related shooting or officer-related incident, uh, we get out on the streets, we march, we protest, we demand accountability. But we need to hold ourselves to that same standard when there's a community involved incident, shootings, carjacking, so that we can protect. Because if the community doesn't trust law enforcement to protect them, we have to feel that we can trust each other to protect each other. So, in terms of that standard, we need to bring ourselves to a higher standard, hold ourselves accountable, take responsibility. So if you know somebody that's been involved in a situation, or have some type of information, help the community by bringing that to light, bringing that forward. I mean, because we've seen within the last year, 97 murders from January 1 to the end of December, and how many of those went unsolved? How many of those had no leads? How many of those went cold? So it shouldn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way, and we have the ability to make change when we have a strong knit community.
And Mal, just a little bit more about the young people task force that's really trying to do some great here with the Unity Community Mediation Team. I applaud y'all as young brothers under 30 years old talking to young kids as young as 14 and 15 and 16 because I think y'all the right one because y'all ain't that far removed from what they going through, and it's a little tighter on them to see these kind of situations. But tell them if they want to get involved with the young people task force, what they have to do.
Definitely. If you're a young person yourself, again, we deal with young people under the age of 30. So if you are a young person yourself or know a young person that may be interested in wanting to work to do transformation between the police relationships, want to be involved in some monumental movements, you can reach us and get a hold of us at on Instagram at the Young People Task Force _MN. Same thing for Facebook, Young People's Task Force MN. You can find us on the internet on our website at the Young People's Task Force MN.com. And you can reach us by email at the Young People's Task Force MN at gmail.com.
And then Mal, talk about you as a young man, this is what I think is critically important. You born and raised in Minneapolis. How do you get people like yourself get more people involved? Because right now a lot of the tearing up that was done in Minneapolis, it was done by Minneapolis resident, but you had a lot of out of town help in that situation, and then you have to live with it. How do we get more leaders like yourself to come out and speak out, whether it's against law enforcement, speaking up to say this is wrong, but definitely speaking up on the other side, Miles. How do we get more people involved to know that this situation is dire, not for me, but more for you and your daughter. You got a 3-year-old daughter. How do you keep this city, which is a great city, but sometimes the politics doesn't treat our community as it should.
Right. And I believe that the politics is creating a division and a separation between our community. I think there are a lot of strong leaders out there right now, and I think there's a lot of different stances on what somebody can take, especially when it comes to regards to our law enforcement. Right? We came through an election where we had an amendment on our ballot to vote to remove or keep our police officers, and with or without that, I think that created a lot of separation in terms of viewpoints, in terms of what people wanted to see, what kind of change people, want to see. And that, I mean, it shows people are tired of what's kind of happening right now in Minneapolis and our surrounding suburbs. But to bring us together, like the Young People's Task Force, we're open to working with all sides and all parties. Uh, we want to hear the different perspectives. Because the more perspectives that you can bring and the more ideas that you can bring, the more you can collaborate and formulate a plan that actually works out, that works for everybody. So we're open to working with everybody. We're open to, keeping those ideas on the table, and we want to hear those because we understand that we don't have, uh, the idea that everybody might have in mind. Not everybody is for supporting the law enforcement, but share some of those ideas against that and see and give us reasons why, and so that we can collaborate to see how we can bridge this gap, bring safer community, bring safer policing into Minneapolis, bring safer communities, and have us hold accountable, like I mentioned before.
And I'll say that again. I'm proud of what you guys are doing. And now I'll go to Nick. I don't know how much you heard Nick, but I'm gonna get better at that too. I'm gonna know who's in the studio, who's not in the studio. So we're like I said, this is us coming out. This is gonna be ongoing. We are going to continue to push messages out to our community in Minneapolis. And Minneapolis is such a diverse community of all different races, and sometimes I always think they pit people against us, or either pick our leaders in Minneapolis. And we'll talk more about that in the future. If you good, if you set up and let stuff happen in our community. I talked about it. I did a live Facebook yesterday talking about the Office of Violence Prevention and the lady that runs that and who picks favors and I say names. If you're a director or you're a city official, I'm gonna say who you are. And I watched as we had a director that was supposed to deal with trauma within our community, and they once they spent all the funding that was supposed to help our people with trauma, then that department gone. You don't even hear it no more. Called it used to be called recast. And I called it out then and I watched as they go away. And that's what they do. They did that with the empowerment zone many years ago. The did the final report, wasn't nothing in it, and they had spent over $1 billion. And when they wrote it, it was wrote for African Americans. It was about African Americans' education, the poverty in our community. And then the city squandered it and really didn't give us a chance. And they'll say they didn't give us a chance because we didn't have any equity. And so those are the kind of things I'm just reaching out trying to see how we survive. But I got Nick Martin, who's another person, young person that's on Young People Task Force, and Nick, we just talking about first we talking about the Potter trial, where she only got 24 months, Nora got 12 years, and although I always say I can't see nobody doing that and destroying their life. I just can't see you doing that intentionally. And some people say, well, no, she did it intentionally. They thought, but that's the skepticism and the madness of that where we at now. We don't trust law enforcement, and so sometimes it ain't rational thinking. I always say I think with a GED, but I got a CSD, a common sense degree. And when I say that, so first, Nick, talk about the Potter trial and the difference in the verdicts with when Noor, the Somali officer, made a mistake with Justine Diamond, I believe, and they said he had a depraved mind when he did that, and he ended up getting 12 years. They got it reduced by 3. But talk about the Potter thing and what's your thinking and what's your friend saying?
I mean, what my friends and family and community, they're all sad about it, and they think it's messed up. But I mean, a lot of people are just they're so used to this and normalize it that they just think that this is what is supposed to happen and what always happens. So, and then with all the media being pushed out behind it, it just is like I mean, everybody is being swarmed with media, and there's nothing else you can focus on. So I would say um, it is messed up, and the difference. I mean, we see it every day. I mean, every time you go on the internet or turn on the television, you see something else that's happened in Minneapolis that's messed up with racial stuff and policing. So um, I would have to say what I think right now about it is we got to keep pushing, and we're going to get some wins, and we got to focus on ourselves and not feed into it too much, because it is causing a divide between people. And I think right now as the Young People's Task Force, we got to continue to work with the community and the police and figure out ideas and solutions that we can come up with together to fix this from continuing to happen, and so we don't have to normalize it anymore.
And Nick, when you do a lot of the technical stuff, you and Anthony, and I say I'm doing this show. This is about y'all. This is about y'all. This is about using whatever I have to promote what y'all doing, and it don't. This is not gonna happen overnight. This is not y'all life and y'all work and you still taking time to do this right here, and it's so critically important of what y'all doing, and that's why we starting this. We're starting this, and we're gonna grow it up because we only have like we have the Inside News, the Spokesman Recorder, KMOJ. That's where we get our news. But your generation, a lot of people don't read the paper, don't look at the news. Tell us how important social media is going to be in this endeavor that we're trying to do.
Social media, I think, is the number one thing right now, because people are getting false narratives and pushing false narratives on social media. So, I mean, social media is the most important thing, because that's the reason why people go out and do certain things based on what they see on social media. So there's so much false news floating around where we have to make sure that we take charge of the narrative and make sure we get the honest and the truth out to the people. So social media is one of the most important things, because I mean, people read more on social media than they even do books nowadays, and it's sad, but I mean, that's just how our generation is.
Well, y'all hang with me as much as you can. I'm gonna continue to talk, and I'm still waiting on. I got Mark Anderson of the Barbara Snyder supposed to come. I don't know if because I do things at the last minute. AJ, I don't know if AJ gonna show up. But I sent them the link we coming on at 6:30. I sent the link at 6 o'clock. Man, as you ready, what can you do? That's how I operate. That's how I continue to operate. But I know every time I come on, I get some young brothers like Miles and Nick. So Anthony, let me know if Mark and AJ and them, if they get on, because this is our first one. This is our first one, and I want to make sure that I say how proud I am of these young brothers for stepping up and being a part of. And I think about it because when George Floyd died on May 25th in 2020, in by that June we were all working and moving things together, and they showed up, and they didn't have to put their time into working on this, because it's such a long fight. The fight about trying to change something over 400 years of oppression. With the law enforcement. So we're not going to change it overnight, and I'm not going to expect them to change it overnight. I'm not going to expect us, as we work with Minnesota Safe Street, and that's a collaborative effort of community groups, and it's going to be up and down, but it's a community-based solution, because see, we know they've already failed us. The country have failed African American ADOS people the whole time we've been here since they dragged us over here. But and then most people that come over here, if you're an immigrant, you come over here and say, get over it, get over here. But they're giving you things to go to college. Your credit is good, everything is good. And with us, and this is what America and this is what Joe Biden have to think about what we did in the election for him. What we did, because Joe Biden was getting ready to lose, and he went to South Carolina. And when he went to South Carolina, Jim Clyburn and them changed the whole tide, and that's why Joe Biden is president. And what changed the tide was African Americans like myself. My generation said Bernie is crazy. Not literally crazy, but his policies and what he was doing. He was more into this anarchy, not trying to have a solution. But when you ask Bernie, want to give everything away till you say reparation. When you say that's the only time Bernie had an answer. When you say reparation, Bernie said, "Oh no, wait a minute, that ain't what I'm talking about." But we are that community that thinks with common sense. We don't, no matter what all we went through, we think with that common sense. That's what we do. That's why I said I got a GED with a CSD that's bigger than a doctorate degree, because only one you need the doctorate. When you the doctorate and the masters and all that, those people are the reason we in the condition we in. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them, because they get in there and they be quiet. They don't say nothing about the problem, and the problem just festered on. As long as you get yours, then you all right. You all right. So me as an African American man, a descendant, an ancestor of slaves, I know what my great great grandmother was. That's where it was, and so I know those things. So when I see people getting up there into positions of power, like I said about this Sasha Cotton, who's over the Office of Violence Prevention, and she's mixed. I'm just saying, when I say not for you have Hispanic and African American, you ain't got that feel what I said. So you can play the game and let people pick some favorite black people that fit you and that ain't really doing what we need them to do to save our people. Then I got to call it out, and that's what I do. I'm like, no, we can't afford that. How they get $3, $4, $5 million saying they helping a problem of violence, and then we ain't getting nothing done. And so that's why I said I asked she need to be gone. Enough is enough. Everybody tried to work with her, but and then she not working with the people that can solve the problem. We know who can solve the problem. The people she working with ain't never been on the street half the time in Minneapolis or St. Paul. They ain't did this work, and so that's why I said they pick our leaders. They pick our leaders, and then we end up with a traumatized situation like we did with Amir Locke and then Deshaun Hill. And I'm joined by my brother, Mark Anderson, who's a part of the Unity Community Mediation Team, and he's also the executive director of the Barbara Schneider Foundation, who deals with trauma within. If you want him to talk about it, he brings it, and he got into this a long time ago. Me and him was on the team fighting against police injustice the years ago. And Mark, first, welcome to our first live YouTube show, Truth to the People. And Mark, first, kind of talk about your organization and who you are, and then I ask a couple of questions as we continue to try to move through this show.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for inviting me to be on your program here. As you mentioned, I got involved in federal mediation back in 2002, 2003. We signed that memorandum of agreement, and I got involved because what happened to a lady by the name of Barbara Schneider. She lived down on 31st Street and Hennepin Avenue South. She lived alone in an apartment. She's a 50-year-old woman. She had 2 master's degrees, and she had a severe mental illness that she got when she was in college. And she lived most of her life with that illness. And but what happened was she was in crisis. She was in a mental health crisis, and we learned we didn't learn from the there was a court case and everything else. We didn't learn this from the court case. We learned it from her old friends, friends from college who stayed in touch with her whole life. They told us that what happened was her mom had died of ovarian cancer, Barb's mom, when she was an infant. And then Barb had been diagnosed and treated for ovarian cancer a few years earlier, and then the cancer had come back. So this shock news about her, cancer coming back, we all know that's bad news. And she was upset, and she was a Jewish lady. Her dad was involved in the Nuremberg trials, Nazi war crime trials. She was a Jewish lady. The Nazis had murdered her relatives over in Europe back in the 30s, 1940s, before World War and during World War II. And she was writing on the walls about the Satan Squad, which was to her the Nazi SS, the people that had murdered her relatives. And she had a radio in the window. We all know that the music calms you when you're upset. You're going through something. You turn on the music, it helps you. And she had the radio on. Neighbor called the noise complaint, 911 call. Turn the radio down. So the officers went up there to the apartment. They knocked on the door. She was calling them the Satan Squad at the door, and they didn't know what that was all about. They went in the apartment. They used pepper gas. She went back in the bedroom, closed the door. They brought in a backup police. They had 5 police officers in that little 1-bedroom apartment with Barb back in the bedroom, and they were going to transport her out. And she was afraid for her life. She thought it was the Nazis coming to get her. She was talking about the Satan Squad coming to get her, thinking about her own mortality with this cancer diagnosis, and then the mental illness. They thought she was probably stopped taking her medication because of this shock of this news, and then she lost her life in that encounter. And that's how I got involved in this. I was just it was a big story back then. It was like all these stories about these police shootings. It went on for days, and people couldn't understand what happened. How could 5 cops go into an apartment? A lady's 50 years old, 5 feet tall, 100 pounds. Why? How can the cops not handle that? And they couldn't understand it. And so we got involved and brought this model called Crisis Intervention Team, CIT, to Minneapolis. And the idea is to de-escalate that crisis, not to go with the crisis, not to get swept away with it, but to calm the situation, to slow things down, to assess the situation, find out what's going on. What can we do to help? How can we help this person that's behaving this way that we find troubling? And so that's how I got involved in federal mediation. So we're still doing that. We're still doing that with in the justice system, with the deputies in the corrections, with the police, with police officers. And they come, the ones that are interested come to the class. Others that are not interested don't come. But we do it a lot with hospitals because there's a lot of crisis in hospitals. Hospitals, they use restraints, they use seclusion, and it's people feel they're being assaulted in the hospital when that happens. And so, how do you talk through these situations and get voluntary compliance? And instead of just calling in security, going hands on, how do you do that? That's what we work on. So that's the introduction to what I do.
And Mark, because I got some more questions. I think have AJ jumped in, because I want to. We now joined by AJ, the project coordinator with the Young People Task Force. And AJ, I've talked to Mal, Nick, and asked Mark about the trauma of what he how he got started on mediation, and let him say about what happened with the Barbara Schneider Foundation. So AJ, talk about why this is important, and then I'm gonna go back and talk. We want to talk about racism and things like that. But first, talk about young people, and then respond to what happened to that young man. You sent me a video of what happened to the young man in New Jersey, and the trauma that we have to go through, and why it's a hard fight. But talk about what you're doing with the Young People Task Force and what y'all are doing, and then go to the incident on racism, what happened in New Jersey. But first, tell them what you are doing. We got a lot from Miles and Nick. But tell them they didn't talk about what y'all are doing, actually doing right now, and so you can get that in, and then talk about the incident in New Jersey. So let's start, and then I want to go back to Mark and ask him questions after that. But talk about what you're leading with the Young People Task Force under the UCMT.
Right now we're just trying to work on the memorandum of agreement to try to get some policy changes within the Minneapolis Police Department. One of our main focuses also right now is the youth center that we're trying to get over North Minneapolis, which is going to be for our African-American youth to try to help with their development, focusing on service components, 7 major service components that we have, that we're going to try to instill within our young people to start doing preventative measures to keep us away from the trauma that we're facing right now. But going back to the racism situation, I don't even know if y'all touched on this, but I wanted to also speak on, just what we're going through right now in the city as far as with the sentencing that happened with Kim Potter. And I mean, even myself, 2 years just seemed a real light to me, especially considering the fact Nora got more years for a lesser charge. And that's just by the books of it. And then what you see in New Jersey is just what we see every day. It's the reason why we always fight. And it's the reason why we people might say things, people always tell me sometimes I come off as angry or I come off as frustrated and things like that. And, my response to that is, yes, I am angry. I am frustrated because of them exact reasons. You've seen a situation where you had a white boy bullying another young black boy. One young black boy steps in, defends himself. The police come over there and they immediately tackle him, push the white boy away. The white boy stands up and humiliates him just to let him know, put him back in his place. That's how I took it, for me watching it. And I might be a little harsh, might be a little vicious, but for me watching it, that was a white boy letting that black boy know, boy, you never going to be on the same level as me. I'm superior to you. You don't have the right to speak to me the way you do. And that's just what we face on the everyday battle. And we can't be afraid to call it out when we see it. And we can't be afraid to stand up against it when it's in our face.
And Mark, I don't know if you know the incident we're talking about. It was an incident in New Jersey where a white kid was harassing, bullying a younger black kid, 16-year-old, I think, bullying a 12-year-old. Another 14-year-old kid jumped in and tried to defend that younger 12-year-old. If I got it right, and it was something about him defending. And then when the police arrived, the white kid was over the black kid, and the police immediately grabbed the white kid, sat him on the couch, and while one officer attacked the black kid and was handcuffed him, and then even when he handcuffed him, Mark, the female white officer went around him and had her knee so close to his neck. You have flashbacks of what happened to George Floyd. And that was in broad daylight. Everybody looked, and they took that black kid to jail when the white kid is the one that started it. And then, they let him out. But talk about the trauma, because you've did classes with A Mother's Love. Ain't nothing racist about you, Mark. You're a former aide to the late Senator Paul Wellstone, who was a big fan of trying to figure out what was up with mental health. And we'll talk about that on later shows. But talk about that, what those young people can feel, at that time that the black kid went to jail, the white kid started it, and it was something they could have broke up, took them to the principal office, but they had to take them to jail because they had physical contact.
Well, let me just tell you a little story. I think it's related, which is we did a training last weekend with people from the community that are interested in this issue of trauma, and the presenter was talking about trauma that the young people in the African American community experience and how it affects them. And the lady said, the African American lady said, "We know what happens in our community. We don't need training on that. We want to understand, why do you act like you act? Why do the white people act like they act? What happened to them that caused them to do these things over and over and over again?" And I think it was people were agreeing with her in the room. It's like, we're not going to get past this moment where there's this fear of the young black male, and the system is harming the black man. We do a lot of work in the jail, and I walked through that jail, say 800 bed jail downtown Minneapolis. I don't know if anybody's walked through there, but it's African American men, Native American men. That's who's in there. There's some others, but mainly, why do we have this idea that that's the danger? We lock people up for such a long time for really like a small drug crime, it's just it's profound. And then when you think about the history of the United States, you think about, and you talk about this idea of ADOS, this idea of that people live with that trauma from their ancestors who went through that slavery experience. For generations they went through that. I was thinking about the number of generations, from 1619 till 1865. That's, what is that, 20 generations of people that went through that slavery experience. And then there's not the empathy to say the damage that was done, the injury that was done to those people, and it's passed down to following generations. Let's have a little compassion and some empathy for that. So I'm just hearing, as you're telling the story about this incident in New Jersey, that's what it kind of recalls to me, is this just a systematic failure to see the other side of the problem. Failure to see what was done to people for so many generations, not just years, but generations was done to them. And that's a severe trauma, and trauma affects your body. It affects your and it gets technical, it gets scientific, but your epigenetics, the gene expression that affects that. And so it's a powerful influence on your physical being, caused by trauma that your ancestors went through. It's passed down to you from them. And people need a compassion, they need caring, they need a nurturing, and that's how we need to be responding. But it seems like we're not doing that. We're blaming, we're accusing, we're fearing, we're isolating, we're denying, but we're not doing what we should be doing.
And AJ, I'll go. You was short. Gideon, what do the things we're doing, trying to deal with mediation, trying to work with public safety, talking about housing, these issues we're talking about. Say what you want to say. What is it? What is it that we can say, or what do we need? What we need to do? You speak on it. What are you thinking at this time about Potter and the difference in the Noor case and the Potter? How do you? It's not explainable. That's why I ain't say nothing. But I said earlier on the show that that I was one that was saying I just can't believe somebody would do that to destroy their life. But I thought she should have got the time Nora got. It was negligent. I thought it was negligent. People got their feelings about what it was. I said that earlier. Because that's just that inside trauma that Mark talks about that we've been dealing with for hundreds and hundreds of years. But speak on it, and because we still have to come up with solutions.
That's a lot. Well, and for me, I'll just say it. I don't believe for 1 second she made a mistake. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. Going back to Mark thing, what he was saying is a lot of time, how the trauma is passed down through generations. Also, it's what's passed down through generations, especially with white Americans, is the cognitive dissonance. So, which means you spent 200 or so years looking at a group of people as not human. You spent 200 or so years looking at a group of people as inferior to you. And when you have that type of mentality, it brings this type of level of dehumanized. That's what we always fighting for is human rights. We're fighting for it to be recognized as humans. It's something that we've been asking for a long time. So when you have people who do have that cognitive dissonance, who has also faced that same type of trauma because they have lived this long time thinking that we're not human, even though we bathed their children, fed their children, and helped them learn how to live in a civilized way. So it's a type of lie you got to tell yourself. It's almost like the person who's a serial killer but tell people that I'm not a serial killer, right? Or a person who does these type of brutal things but don't believe that what they're doing is as brutal as it is. The answer to all of that is it's going to always be the same answer. It's reparations, right? It's time for them to cut that check. It ain't no way really around it. We need reparations for the ADOS people so that we can start to reconcile for all the damage that has been done to our community for over 500 years now. As Spike Moss would always tell us, it's a little before 1619, so it's been a long period of time where our people have been enslaved and been tortured. And even after slavery, when you look at post-slavery, some of the atrocities that we still face. I give you something even deeper with Kim Potter, not even mentioning Muhammad Noor. It's brothers who are in jail right now for as Mark said, for small drug crimes that got more time than she did. She's gonna do 18 months. So it's first offenders, as we know, who got longer than that at 19 years old for making a bad decision. So it's amazing to me how that system just flipped over and changed like that. And I think that it just goes to show why we have such distrust in the system right now. It just goes to show why young people don't believe that there's anything that we can do to help reform or change this police department. It just goes to show why most people believe it's nothing in this system worth fixing. So they believe burn it down and start it all over. So it's tough. When you're fighting for solutions, you're fighting for your people. You fight for me at this point. I'm fighting for my children. I'm fighting for my nieces and my nephews, for them to be able to live in a just world. But it just seemed like America just don't want to give that to us, particularly the ADOS people, with the slaps in the face that we get. What you seen down there in New Jersey was exactly what I'm talking about with that cognitive dissonance. They didn't see two human beings fighting. They seen one savage and they seen another human, an innocent young boy, which happened to be the white boy. And the black boy, they seen as a savage, as the aggressor, which is the word that we hear a lot, especially when it comes to black men. And it's a code word they use now to say aggressive or aggressor, or he was in this aggressive tone, or different things that they use to try to paint us out in a picture as always being this criminal, as a predator. It was the first move that they did once they released us from slavery, was to tell all their families that black men are coming to kill you. So it's a tactic that has been used forever. And we see it playing out to this day. And it's been something we've been fighting for generations and generations after generation. And we're hoping that we be the generation to finally get reparations for our people so we can start to save ourselves. One of the favorite lines Mark always tell me, and it's one of the realest lines within addiction recovery, is that you have to participate in your own recovery. And the thing is, we haven't been able to participate in our own recovery because everyone else wants to be the person that does our recovery for us. Now's the time where we fight as people and we say, no, let us participate in our own recovery, give us our own resources to do what we need to do. Let us feed our own children. Let us educate our own children. Let us work on economics. Like I say, we don't want to work in, we don't want the affirmative action anymore. We don't need to just be a CEO in your company. We want the company ourselves. We don't want to own a dispensary in the marijuana game. We want the farm and the land to grow it. Y'all can have the dispensaries. We don't want just a piece of the check. We want all our check. We don't want some of it. We want all of it. It's just something that we got to scream unapologetically and let it be known that this is what we want as a people.
And Mark, I'm and I go first before I get to Mark, I'll go to Nick or Miles. You want to comment on that? And if they want to comment, I'll let them comment. That was pretty strong, but mine is to ask. That's a real question, Mark. Coming. Why is it so hard for them to understand what you just said and understand that we was put behind even after slavery, like the Native Americans, which you work a lot with? Why was we put so? How come America doesn't understand what they did and the trauma and the damage that they did, what they did there?
Yeah, Nick came on. Maybe Nick wants to say something. I don't know.
Nick, did you want to jump in on that part of the conversation?
I just want to add on to what AJ said. I think he was spot on with they're not giving us a chance to take charge and make a difference just with ourselves, and that is the number one thing that needs to happen right now. And I think it's just not happening with all the different narratives people are putting out and all these different things that we have to go against every day. We're not getting the opportunity to just work on, fixing things ourselves. So I think that was spot on with what AJ said.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I would just add, we hear that word underprivileged youth. They need something, but we won't use the word privileged. Underprivileged, that's okay. You can talk about underprivileged, but you can't talk about privileged, because now you're getting some extra, if you're privileged, and people don't want to look at that. They don't want to look at the fact that if you have underprivileged, then you obviously have privilege. It's just the only, you have to, because it's just underprivileged and privilege, right? I mean, but people don't want to admit that the system is skewed toward them. It's like this idea of affirmative action. They're complaining about, I say some people are complaining about the fact that President Biden is talking about appointing African-American women on the Supreme Court. And they're saying, oh, that's affirmative action. But haven't we not had affirmative action for white men on the Supreme Court since 1789? I mean, they're practically everyone on the Supreme Court. They're the only ones that get considered. They have like a special category that they go first, And so, but we don't see that. We don't see that. When you look at it, it's so obvious that there's a privilege going on there. There's a special treatment going on there. They're not the only smart people in America. And why are they the ones that are so dominant? 90% or whatever it is, 90-some% of the Supreme Court justices, white men. Why is that? Well, because that's the way things are structured. That's the way we were created. That was the whole idea of the creation. You have a positive way of looking at the Constitution, that it talks about equal rights for all, but then it also has got the 3/5 piece in there for the slaves. That you're 3/5 of a person. It's you can look at it both ways. But reality is that's our history. That's our history, that we have always had this special category. First, it was only white men with property could vote. Then it was white men. They didn't have to have property being land. And then they opened it up to, and it gradually opened up to different groups of people, but it hasn't totally opened up, and it's a privilege question. They have a privileged position. They have special access. They have special treatment, but we don't want to admit that because we want to say, oh, it's because they're so much smarter and more intelligent and more sophisticated and more civilized and all these words. And but the reality is, look at the reality. Look at what's you said, and I love what you say that the doctrine of common sense. Look at it from a common sense point of view, and I don't know. That's what I see happening is we just we don't have a level playing field.
And I think I think like AJ was just saying, and I said that earlier in the show. I'm of the opinion. I just can't. And I never think like that. Like I got a feel about teachers. I never think teachers are really they trying to hurt the kids. I just don't believe that, and that's just my philosophy. But a lot of people believe the teachers, not the teachers, but the unions are there, and they don't care nothing but about their dues, and they hurting kids. And that's the same way I said about Potter. I'm disappointed because the real thing about Noor, and he was a Somali officer when he killed a white woman. They said he did it with a depraved mind, and I had never heard that, so it wasn't real, but that's what they used because they was gonna hang him anyway. They was gonna get him one way or the other because people were protesting, and then George Floyd, but at the same time, it's people with that mindset. Oh, she knew what she was doing. She knows she didn't. She pulled that gun. The gun too heavy. The taser there, and so that's what people that's why people don't believe it. It's hard. It's hard. My argument is hard. Everybody, even if you say it, but I got the courage to say what I feel, and not saying that I'm right, but they got what AJ just said. They got the courage to say no. I don't believe no. You ain't made no mistake like that. You ain't just picked up that gun and you which there's so many things to it. But today, the judge, even when sentencing her, was almost her lawyer. And I know that judge, but the judge was almost her lawyer, trying to explain to everybody, no, this was a tragic, and it could, and which I believe it was. I believe that was, but to see the judge do what she did, it was one of the that was kind of disgusting coming from that judge to be that much involved, and then you got the mother of Dante Wright crying, and it just shows where we at with racism in this country and what we have to do. But I always say to AJ and Miles and Nick and them, because the frustration of seeing that. But if you, what do we do while we going trying to fight for reparation? How do we get there? We know these things are wrong, but how do we get there? How do you lift more people into the movement? Not to because one thing about it, the police ain't going nowhere. How do we get people that want to do it? Because right now nobody wants to do it. It's a hatred going on there that people just don't want to do it. That you don't want to do it, but it's going to cost us. It's going to cost because it ain't going nowhere. Because America is a lawless society. It's always been from when they took us as slaves. What do you do besides doing what they doing? And that's spewing hate and hatred toward people that just look like us, using other nationalities to fight, to bring them in, even in the DFL in Minneapolis. They said in the DFL caucus, which the majority of blacks vote, they said we're gonna let undocumented people vote. Now, you can say that you're gonna let them vote, but we already at a disadvantage anyway in the system, and that's gonna make it even more disadvantage. So those things like that, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to get the information out like we doing now, and really do something positive of talking about what we are gonna do. But AJ, I'll go back to you. I know what you feel. I know if that was hurtful. That wasn't. There really wasn't enough time. I'll say that, and even though my feeling is that, and I just don't want to believe that somebody would. I mean, well, she didn't destroy her life because she didn't give her 24 months, so she ain't gonna miss for one Christmas, one Thanksgiving, one birthday, which is just totally unfair. But what about the other part? Why is it important what to do what you doing? Because if you don't do it, who's going to be doing it right now?
Well, it's only important if we get something done. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's, you know, people is not wrong for their sentiments of protesting and doing. Y'all, we got to remember, UCMT and the memorandum was in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was 13, 14, 15 years old at that time. I'm 29. You know, I got a daughter that's 9 years old. She's almost the same. She'd be the same age when y'all first started these conversations. So people is not wrong for that. And, you know, and at the end of the day, I get what you're saying. But for me, you know, it's hard to believe that a group of humans will enslave somebody for 250 years and rape their children and beat their children and hang them in front of their children and beat people in front of them, rape the men in front of the woman so that they knew that this man was emasculated. Or George Floyd or Derek Chauvin would put his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 46 seconds straight while people is watching in broad daylight. So, you know, it's hard to believe that people would do these type of things. But for me, I have come to the ability of saying I won't put nothing past the viciousness of what white supremacy is, because it's a vicious game. You know, people shot Martin Luther King in the face for preaching peace. This is a man that preached peace. I can't put nothing past anybody. You know what I mean? Especially when you start to think about it wasn't her first encounter ever seeing Daunte Wright. And then if you know that you can end up with a 2-year sentence for murdering somebody, I mean, that's a heck of a thing. I'm pretty sure his brother's in the joint right now who thought they had a taser too. You know, but that ain't gonna work. I guarantee you, I ain't gonna be able to go to court and say I thought I had a taser if I had a taser on me. Well, you know, so it's the fact of saying, like, what can we do? No, it's what can they do now? Because at the end of the day, it's only two options, you know, and as crazy as it sounds, I know it might sound like that's not going to work and that's not going to work. But the part about America is it's really been a couple times when things really dramatically, tangibly happen for Black folks. You had the Civil War when we got out of slavery. That was the bloodiest war in the United States history. You know, you had the Civil Rights Act. That didn't happen when Martin Luther King had a dream. That did not happen when Martin Luther King was out speaking and trying to work to bring everybody together. It happened after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and there was riots all over the city. When you think about now, 2020, what just happened with the George Floyd? It was a lot of things that passed, not enough for us, at least in my opinion. But the reason why they all was at the table, sadly enough, is because things was on fire. So it's this type of mentality, the Boston Tea Party, America, how America was founded. They weren't throwing that tea out for no reason. They weren't throwing it out just because it tastes nasty or nothing. That was a rebellion, you know. So everything about America starts with rebellion, the Revolutionary War. Everything about us is bloody and violent in order to get anything out of this country. And this is a powerful country who has global domination, right? They dominate countries all across the globe. This ain't just us; it's everywhere. So this is so to fight it, you gotta fight it with power and force. You got to come back and be forceful in what you're doing and make it be understood when we sit down at them tables that, hey, look, we have to get something done, because if either we're going to get something done, or regardless on whether we say law enforcement is there or not, they'll be raising vote yes again. And this time around, some of the people that vote no will be on the side of vote yes if we're not able to get nothing done. It can't keep coming down to what it is that we got to do. I think Mark said it best. You know, we talk about training and stuff. Training don't never seem to come into play unless you're dealing with a Black person. The training seemed to work just fine with every other ethnicity. It's just when you come with these black folks, which I keep going back to that cognitive dissonance that we don't talk about enough, that happened with a lot of white Americans after living in a ability of feeling like you're superior to another group of people for such a long period of time. And every time that group of people stand up to you, it has been historically met with white lash, which is a lot of different things. Crack down on crime, war on drugs, the Crime Act. The Crime Act happened after 1992 with the Rodney King riots. It's a pattern that happens in America. And now we're going through the second pattern. You see how vicious they're going on trying to take away our voting rights and the different things that's happening. And Donald Trump and the revigoration of Donald Trump, where they thought racism was over, and Donald Trump showed them racism is not only over, it's prevalent. And not only, it's not just old white men, it was white boys younger than me out there that's like that. So we have a whole nother generation of racism that's there that a lot of people would say that we weeded out once we got Barack Obama. So I think it's the fact of always speaking the truth and understanding that something has to change, or else we're gonna keep coming into these points of rebellions, and this generation is not gonna stop. You know, they're not gonna stop. They're gonna keep coming outside, and they're gonna keep going. And my fear is that it keep escalating, because you fear that nothing can happen without that. When you think that they've been protesting, all the peaceful protests that ever happened, and you never get called in the room, then the one time the city go on fire, they're speaking to more activists and quote unquote freedom fighters than ever. And you say, wait a second, all the other times we tried this metric of sitting down at the table, we ain't the only one that sat down at the table with these folks. Everybody that sat down with the department before. Everybody has been trying to get reform done before. The problem is that we never seem to get anything tangibly done. So to me, how we bring more people like that into this movement and into the process of trying to sit at the table, as we like to say, is going to start with us actually getting results and building out this framework of what the Minneapolis Police Department, as we like to say, should look like moving forward. Without that, we'll never be able to bring them on, because it's just a simple lack of trust. And you can't blame them for it. It's almost like a person who's been in an abusive relationship, and that person keeps on coming back telling them, hey, it's going to be better this time, baby. I promise you. I ain't going to do it to you this time. I'm going to give you some flowers. I'm going to give you some roses, because that's what usually happens. They make a mistake. They come to our community, tell us how sorry they is, pick which leaders they want to speak to. Then it's back to business as usual. At one point, a person either has to leave that relationship, or they have to get that person up out of there. And that's where we're at the brink of that. So it has to be changes that's going on, and we're going into a whole new relationship. That's why we say peace department. The police department has been built on control, it has been built on order, and has built on oppression specifically for our people. The peace department will be built on peace. The peace department will be built on communication and de-escalation for our people. That's what we need.
And Mark, when you hear one thing about these young people, and me and you both have been very supportive of what they are doing. We did mediation back with the late Ron Edwards and the late Clyde Bilcourt. They were the leaders back then for the Native community, for the African American ADOS community, and then and here we are years later. You was supporting it, supporting our communities back then. But when you what AJ respond to why it's important that we keep trying to push it, because it's only one thing: it's war again, or them treating us and doing the right thing about our community, particularly the ADOS, because the Native, whether we like it or not, I wish we had a couple of casinos. I wish we had those kind of thing. I wish we was we had something that we could build economics on. And if you don't take advantage of it, that's on you. But speak on that, why it's important that you're putting your time in, because you don't have to do that. You work with the Barbara Snyder Foundation, but this right here is almost like a mission for myself and you.
Yeah, it's a mission for me, because I'm from Minneapolis. I was a little kid. I lived over at 33rd and Oakland Avenue South, and I know it was different back then, but it wasn't that different, really. And I care about our community. I care about those young people. I want them to grow up strong and healthy and be successful, get what they want out of life, and raise their own family and feel safe in their own home. And you know, I that's what I'm doing this because I think I feel like a responsibility to do that, to for my neighbors, for the young people that are coming up after us. And I would just say this, what the young people are doing now with this youth center. They're working with a lot of partners that wanting to get it behind this. A lot of people are saying they want to help. We'll see if they deliver, but there's a lot of support for it. And I think if you think about it that way, how do you raise a generation of strong young people that will go out and get it done? Will go out and turn the community around. I mean, that takes a lot of nurturing. It takes a lot of support, a lot of caring for people, and a lot of encouraging. You think about the coaching that goes on you hear about the basketball team and they're losing all their games, and the new coach comes in and turns the team around. How do you do that? That's my hope with this youth center is that it's going to be a turning point for the community, and that it's going to become a growth of a new generation that is not going to accept second class status. That is going to get it done for themselves, for their family, for their community. And I hear the frustration in Age's voice. I hear the anger and the frustration, and I don't argue with it. I know why. I understand why he's feeling that way, and so many young people are feeling that way. We have our country. We've gone to a place where money is everything. We got individuals that have so much money, they create their own space program and send themselves to space. That's how much money some people have in America today. Doesn't have to be like that. These people don't pay any taxes. They got lawyers that keep them out of paying taxes. We got people that are running, who I'm talking about, who brag about the fact that they don't pay any taxes, that are running our government. And we that's what's happened in America is we've turned our back on our own people, and greed has taken over. And lo and behold, when the leaders of the country put greed and money and power above all else, what do you think the young people are going to do? They'll do the same thing. And then we don't like what they're doing, that they're just chasing money and power, but that's the standard that's been set for them. So I think we have to look in the mirror, America. I think we have to look in the mirror. What have we done, to support this idea that we have that everyone has a fair shot at things, that everyone gets a fair break. I just think we've gone astray, and we have to get back to that. But this idea of this youth center, I think, is trying to get us back to that, trying to reach out and say, no, let's have a safe place for these young people to go. Let's have a place where they can dream their dreams and learn what they want to learn, and get the support they need to get up in the morning and do the right thing every day. So I guess it's we talk about in the de-escalation thing, as we talk about that, we talk about the negative spiral. There's a negative spiral that goes on of anger, frustration, fear, it's all negativity. And then there's a positive spiral, possibilities, hope, achievement, and how do we reverse that spiral so it's a positive spiral, a growth spiral, is an inspirational possibility spiral. I think that's what I see in this youth center that they're talking about. Is I see is a significant project that can help for a lot of people, help a lot of young people turn that around, and get in a positive curve And not that people shouldn't be angry and frustrated. I'm not saying that, but we can work on this one family at a time too.
Doing something different. Let me tell you something. I think when I started off early, this show, Truth to the People, what we are going to be doing every Tuesday from 6:30 to 8. You can always go back and see it. But we also going to play it on Friday. We'll play that the same clip on Friday because I'm going to have some great guests come over on here, like the great Spike Moss, who's a historian here, and have so to have people like A Mother's Love, and them come over, Pastor McAfee. I mean, young people. I'm gonna bring the noise with it because I'm so impressed. This is Anthony McMore's first time trying to put the show on. I'm also gonna have a co-producer, Anthony Spears, who works with me. They're gonna do this show with one when one came, the other one. But I know it's the right thing at this time for our community. I do radio every Sunday on KMOJ. I get to get the message out on KMOJ. But now we're gonna broaden this. This is gonna go good. It's gonna go good. And like I said, I call my guests at 6 o'clock. I called Mark Henderson right before he was eating dinner. And I said, yeah, we're gonna do it. And they came on. I want to thank Miles Wilson. I want to thank Nick Martin and AJ and Mark for coming on and being a part of it because it's important what we're doing here. And when I talk to young people, when I call these the crew under 30, but could deal with them that's 15, 16, 17, 18, they know what they're missing, and that's another generation. And we'll get on here and talk about that generation. I know we're fighters in our family. If you're watching that picture back there, you'll see there's AJ there. That's a nephew, and that's a daughter. They was in the protest. So, and I say that to say, and they over here, they know that we got to do something about police reform. And if they weren't there, I don't know who would be in that space right there. It'll be us. And I will continue to fight because I fight what I believe is right and what's right. And then if you follow me, I don't care if you're young or old, whoever you is, if you follow I don't debate. It's my opinion that we're in trouble as a people. And when they see something like what happened with the Potter case and watch Noah, yep, you absolutely could be disappointed. When they see Amir Locke get killed, you absolutely can be disappointed. When you see Deshaun Hill get killed, you can be disappointed, but you can't give up. You can't quit this fight. This fight, what they talked about earlier, all the way back to the 1619, when that's when most of the documentation came out. That's what a lot of people said. But when they went all the way back then, they, I mean, that's where we came from. And our ancestors fought the fight. Ain't nothing we're doing that's toughening up them. When AJ talks about how we had to feed their babies, we had to watch them lynch our people. I was watching the Great Debaters, with the Denzel Washington movie just last night. And I can watch it over and over again because and that's how I look about young kids at a college called Wiley College, and they was telling that story. That's something I watched because I know they didn't tell us the real history when I was in school. They told us the history they wanted to know. Remember, George cut down a cherry tree, went home, told his mama, I cannot tell a lie, mama, I cut down a cherry tree. And then, but what they didn't tell us is George and Martha had more slaves than anybody. They didn't tell us that. So our history is important to tell and be told. And my job is to make sure that I get the information out. That's where God put me at. That He didn't put me out there, and I don't have to fake. I don't have to, don't tell me to be soft. If you in a position, especially in government at City Hall, that's supposed to be pushing something for us, then you don't do it. You get to get called out. You get to get called out, and so I know what we are doing. I know time is running out, but I got like I think I got like a minute here to say thank you to Mark, and hope you join us again. Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, AJ, for tuning in on this first broadcast of Truth to the People. And I'm feeling real good about tonight's show. I'm feeling real good about my little studio. It could be bigger, but this is this our ancestors didn't have nothing. So I'm gonna stay positive with this and tell anybody that listen, everybody on Facebook. I see you chimed in. This is what I'm trying to do. Just keep pushing the message and join us and pass it around. Share it as we have a conversation live every Tuesday night. That's 6:30, and we'll probably produce it and put it out. And don't let me forget Don Allen, who does a black IBN Black News. And check him out. Just check him out, Brother Don Allen. And thank you for giving that what you gave to Anthony McMorris, because he's gonna do a great job. And I know Antonisha Spears. So I thank y'all again. I know we'll talk soon, fellas. But thank you again, Mark.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Nick. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Truth to the People. Peace.